tend to get the wandering urge every once in a while when I'm preaching. I try not to stomp or use my fist on the pulpit. So today is the fourth Sunday of Epiphany. It's kind of my favorite time in between the hubbub of Christmas and all of Christmastide and getting everything right, and then the beginning of Lent. So it's like we're having a reprieve, isn't it? I love it. The gospel message of Epiphany is that any day, any hour, any minute can be a new beginning. As the sermon title indicates, we are spending this time together talking about change, the change that Jesus brings. We will dig deeper into these verses to find that hidden meaning. The meaning sometimes may be elusive. So sometimes we have to almost work at it to get to what is being said in Revelation. It seems so bizarre sometimes, or so out of our own cultural realm. Well, I do admit that Revelation's difficult. That's true. And obscure. That's true too. Maybe these verses are even, out of our understanding. With modern sensibilities and scientific understandings, we always want to find what the right answer, what's the right thing, what's going to happen in the future. But we're just going to muscle through this today and try to get into the deepness of it. The second thing I'm going to say at the beginning is, because I also honor my Native American heritage, I understand the importance of story. A story has this top layer that is the simple details. Who did what to who and when, who opened the book and who rode the horse and who had the angel speak to them and who didn't. Those are the details of the story of Revelation. But there's another part to every story that teaches us a moral lesson, or maybe even something about ourselves. It's amazing that I could hear a story within the next couple of weeks, I come upon a situation that story talks to and speaks to. This book is called Revelation, and this man's experience with a vision that he interprets. He says it is about the end of the world as we know it. What if today would be the end of the world as we know it? In reality, it is. There isn't going to be another day just like today. And today is nothing like yesterday. And it will be nothing like tomorrow. I don't think John was too far from the truth when he sees these things in his vision and thinks to himself, this is the end of things as I know it. How do we deal with things like this? How do we deal with catastrophic stories? You know, the Mayans, you heard a lot about their prophecy back in December. And they were celebrating a new age, a new sun for them, a new time to begin anew and begin again. It really didn't have anything to do with the end of the world. And the Cherokees also we're celebrating at the same time a sixth sun rising that ushers in a 5,200-year cycle. So we Christians also celebrated a new age in December, didn't we? That new birth, that new child, with so many promises. But we continue to look through now the Epiphany toward Lent, remembering Jesus' teachings as he taught us in the church. What happens when someone like Jesus takes the personal strength and a conviction to stand up and say to us, you've got to change? Sometimes it's hard to swallow. Change might be required because of all kinds of things. Illness, refound health, job, no job, graduation, quitting school, hundreds of other things, right? Change is everywhere, every day. There's now a long litany of people who are trying to tell us how to change, aren't there? There's Dr. Oz, there's Dr. Phil, there's the doctors. I just want to scream at the television and say, you don't understand my situation. I can't change because, and I make my own list of excuses. Maybe that's happened to you too. But in fact, most of us don't want to change, really. When it comes right down to it, a big drastic change of having to give up your home or lose a job that you've had for 30 years, retire. Those kinds of changes are not things that people look forward to in most cases. One of my favorite comic strips is Lockhorns. Have you ever read Lockhorns? There's two basic characters, Leroy and his wife Loretta. Well, Leroy was at a cocktail party and he says to the other person he's talking to, the only thing I don't like is the U in change. The other man replies, doesn't have a U. Leroy says it does when Loretta spells it. There's a lot of truth to that. You know, Jesus and Loretta have something in common right there because they both expect change. Christians who seek to follow Jesus find in that process that change is the one thing that's constant. How do I know that? Because everything that Jesus told us is a verb. Can I give you some examples of that? Go, teach, baptize, comfort, feed, clothe, heal. Goodness, there's a long list of things to do. We can use all kinds of excuses like, oh, maybe that whole thing about teaching and baptizing, maybe that's just for ministers. Or maybe that whole thing about loving other people, that's for those people that were there with Jesus because they were not loving each other. It's easy to make excuses. But here in Revelation, listen to what we hear Jesus say. I have sent my angel to you with this testimony for the churches. He sent it to us. I'm guessing that means that we have to put the U in change too. And give up our excuses. In fact, this is the very reason that I chose this text for today. This place, this people are experiencing change after a few years of the status quo. And you're getting comfortable and then everything is uncomfortable again. I just want you to stop for a minute because some of the things that are in Revelation don't speak church in general, even though it sounds like it. Those messages are for you and your heart. That's what's, I think, so difficult about digging into Revelation. Because it meddles with my stuff. So we're just kind of going to take a deep breath and blow it out and get ready for this kind of hidden message. What is Jesus talking about when he describes himself as the morning star? What would that be? Morning, we know, is when the sun overcomes the shadow of the earth, right? And that sun is just a little tiny speck in the whole galaxy. Not even one of the biggest stars. So that's morning. And that morning star that we see in the heavens, I've always been fascinated by it. Because at the deepest, darkest blue of the night sky before dawn, here's this bright, twinkling white body in the heavens, looking down on me, making so much light. It makes me think of the dawn. Some people, it makes them think that it's still night, but to me, it's a hopeful sign. The sun is coming. The glow will be here. I'm just so dependent on sunlight and light that I can't hardly stand it when it's dark. So to me, it's really exciting. So Jesus is this brilliantly bright white light. And what does Jesus' light do? It shines within us, shines through us, shines out from us. Yes, shines in us. What would that mean if there was a bright white light that showed inside every part of your heart, every part of my heart? Jesus said, "Behold, I am coming soon. My reward is with me to pay according to everyone's work. I'm the Alpha Omega, the beginning and the last, the beginning and the end." Who is speaking there? If we're listening to John, who's telling about this great vision in the Revelation, we have to realize that the one speaking is Jesus, not John. John is telling the story, and Jesus is the major character. And then there is this obscure place in Numbers of all kinds of books in the Bible, but the most unusual one is Numbers. And it says, "A star will come out of Jacob." Jesus is saying, I am that star. That obscure prophet Balaam back in the time of the ancient ones is talking about me. The Revelator is also giving a testimony about a vision, like a dream. He says, "I, John, am the one who heard and saw these things, and when I heard them and had seen them, I fell down and worshipped at the feet of the angel." And you know what the angel told him? "Stop that. Don't worship me. I'm not the one you worship." The angel said, "You worship God." Worship God. That was the angel's testimony. John was taken by surprise by that message. I guess all of us would be in that situation. The second question that comes to me is, could Could it be that the angel is saying that worshiping God is a result of hearing what God has to say? Could that be our total worship? Is that what the angel is testifying to? Jesus testifies that he's the bright and morning star. The angel testifies that God is the one that we worship. And John testifies that he fails when he tries to do things. Sometimes he fails. I think that's encouraging, don't you? I mean, I don't have to be perfect. John is saying, I have to listen to these testimonies and write my own testimony. Then we go on to verse 17, and it says, the Spirit and the bride say, come. Wow. If we already assume that the Spirit is the Holy Spirit, then who is the bride? What could be this bride who calls out in the dark, come? It isn't the church, is it not? It's our identity in one way, that this is where we come to join together, to worship, to know about the power that Christ can be in our lives and tell others, right? That's the place where we do that. But it can't be our whole identity. We can't say, I am the church, and leave it at that. We have a much greater identity than that, right? Whom do we follow? And who gives us our identity? What is that name above all names? Jesus. I identify with Jesus and his teachings. This means seeing ourselves under the bright, white light of the morning star. It means testifying that God is doing a new thing, not only in us, but through us. Because Jesus uses a lot of verbs. We reviewed them earlier, didn't we?